So here we are now, back to part two with Christine Jones, sharing her story
Mhm.
about sexual assault. Now, we left off last time saying that you had actually made a report to the police. You physically went into the police station, you gave a videotape report, or did you do a written report?
So my initial report was it was written,
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't because it was a secondary written report, which was detailed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I guess that's the investigation report. I'm not exactly sure.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I went in and I made my report, and they called me back and asked if I wanted to continue, and that phone call is a gut punch
Mm-hmm.
because it brings to life your thought patterns,
As well
because as
as,
at first all you did is talking about it, right?
yes, yes.
But now there's action that needs to be taken, and it's um you that the initial thought is I'm gonna have to face him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like I'm gonna have to sit in the same room with
Mm-hmm.
this man. Now I've been extremely lucky in an island that is so small, and with like we're not far in age, so our circles probably
Should cross.
cross at
Mm-hmm.
some point,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I've only had a handful, and I'm talking about 5 or 6 in almost 20 years. 5 or 6 sights of him.
And let's talk about that. When you saw him those 5 or 6 times, what
The
did?
first time I was ill,
Mm-hmm.
I was instantly ill. And the first time that I ever saw him again was Harbor Nights. You
Mm-hmm.
know, we all go, oh, at least teenagers, we all went to Harbor Nights. And it was done at Old Boys Point. And I don't think he was talking to me because I was with a group of people. And because we're high school students, there's a bunch of different groups of people, and he shouted out to somebody, and my stomach cramped. Like it was instant. Like I don't even think my brain had registered that that's who it was before my stomach was like, we're not doing this.
Immediate trigger.
It was an immediate reaction. And I've only had one other, and I was an adult. You know what I mean? The first time I saw him was maybe, I don't know, a few months later, whereas the second one was years. And he was working on a truck, and I was walking on the sidewalk, and I caught a glimpse of him, and I vomited. Like it was so reactionary. I wasn't even able to comprehend what happened before it all came up.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I was like, okay, I'm gonna change route. Um, I don't care where we're getting food, but we're not getting this direction.
Right.
And I've seen him on a few other occasions, and it's never good.
Right.
Like my stomach is always in knots. I'm always extremely anxious, and
And so now here you find yourself being faced with
the thought, just the thought of I'm
I'm
gonna have
gonna
to face him at
in a
some point.
courtroom session if I
Oh
move forward
Lord.
with this.
And it was
Was that part of your hesitation? Were there other things that you were thinking that
I
also
think that
made
was
you to hesitate?
for me, that was probably the biggest, if not the only thing that I was concerned about was having to face him.
Mhm.
Like I couldn't in my head say I'm gonna be able to do it.
Now, some people have stated that they didn't want to go through it because they don't want their story out there. Was that your thought pattern at the time or
No,
no?
my thought pattern definitely wasn't I didn't want my story told.
Mm-hmm.
because I stood in my truth.
Mm-hmm.
I stood in my truth, and that's what grounded me. I had to tell myself on a number of occasions going through it, like, this is your truth. Like, this is, it happened. This is what happened. And as long as you stand in your truth, then there's nothing that's going to be able to undermine that.
Right. And you stated earlier in the previous video that you would talk to yourself, that you called it talking to yourself,
Yep.
but it's affirmations. You would started to have to affirm to yourself,
Yep.
this happened to you. You did not consent to
Mhm.
it.
And you have to be, like, at first it started, me talking to myself started out small. It wasn't just, oh, this isn't your fault. Like, that's not how it started. It started out by, is this what you want?
Mm-hmm.
About any situation, or like it morphed into that. This is not your fault. This is this situation. Like, it morphed into that, but it started off with, is this what you really want?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I was in some guy's bathroom, and I was tired. Like, I was like, I don't want to do this no more. I don't want to do this no more. This is not who I am. This is not who I want to be. And that was, I was 19. Mm-hmm. I was 19, and I was like, you're done a lot. You don't want to do this no more. Pack your stuff up and leave. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, it was, I'm tired. Mm-hmm. Like, why are you hurt? And there were other reasons, but it was, I had gone into his bathroom, and I had this whole dialogue with myself. And from then is when it started. Me talking to myself about what I wanted. And I had to look at myself to do it.
Self-awareness was coming in.
Right. It was, I had to look, like, if, how you're in your car and you just randomly say something to yourself, like, girl, why'd you make that turn? What are you doing, Christine? What? Whereas for me, I had to, if I'm going to do that, I have to stop the car. I'm going to pull my rearview mirror. Christine, what are you doing? What? You almost got yourself in an accident. Because for me, it's not just a conversation. I am the type of person where I look at people in their face. Like, if I'm talking to you, I'm talking to you. I'm not talking to the wall. I'm not talking, and that's part of how I was brought up. You know what I mean? If you're talking to somebody, it's a matter of respect. Talk to them and not anything else or anyone else. So I talked to myself, and yeah, it was a level of respect. I'm having a conversation with you, I'm talking to you. So that means if I'm having a conversation with Christine, I'm going to talk to Christine. Yes. I'm not just putting it out there in the ethers for anybody to catch the conversation. I'm talking to you.
Right.
And
having a deep conversation.
And that's it, and it starts to manifest itself in so many different things. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It starts to, do you really want this job? Mm-hmm. Were you really supposed to say that? Or were you, if you're going to do this, you got to do it correctly? Like, it goes into so many different facets of your life that people would think you're crazy, but that's okay.
Because you're questioning and you want to ensure that what you're doing is what you really want to be doing.
Exactly. The life you live is based on the choices and decisions that you make. And I'm not saying that those choices and decisions are always your own, because if this situation has taught me anything, it's how one decision or choice or situation or event or can change the entire direction and course of your life, right? Mm-hmm. And
so that self-talk at 19 now leads you to
34,
where you're now considering, do I move forward with these charges that I've put forward to the police?
Because and I called the police the very next day, and I was like, yes, I'm moving forward. Mm-hmm. And, a lot of me moving forward wasn't for me. And I'll be honest. Like I said, me reporting wasn't for me.
Mm-hmm.
So me moving forward with this wasn't for me either.
Mm-hmm.
And that conversation with myself was, if you're going to lead and support, you have to get yourself in the game.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You can't be a proper coach if you've never played.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be a therapist if you've never had an issue.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be a doctor if you've never had a sore to fix.
Yeah.
Like, experience is the best teacher. And for me in this situation, it was, if I am going to say anything to this person, if I am going to lead this person, I have to practice what I preach.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm going to advocate for you to report, I'm going to report. I'm going to advocate for you to prosecute, I'm going to prosecute too. And that's regardless of whether you do or you don't.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because
you have to respect their decision at the end of the day as well.
So, I called the very next day and I was like, listen, I want to prosecute. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what that entails, but, and they were like, okay, someone will be in contact with you because you have to do yada, 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 and so on and so forth. So, like I said, there was an additional written, and then there was also a video report. And it will go down, on paper as an historical event because it happened so long
many
ago.
Years ago, yes.
So there was obviously a lot of things that they had to piece together, because my sightings of him, or my interactions with him throughout the years, we're talking about years, right? They have to be pieced together.
So you're going from 15 where the incident happened, and now you're at age
32.
32. Okay.
32, 33.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a difficult thing to do. It's difficult to sit on camera and tell some person who's questioning you about your event, like, how did it happen? And
this is during your police statement.
This is just during my video statement. And they gotta go into detail, yes, right? And yes, things you haven't thought about. Because
in that detail,
I could tell you how it happened, but I'm not going into how did he hurt me? How did this happen? How did I feel? Was I like? They asked me if I was sweating. What conversation do you talk about how much you were sweating? Or did you cry? Like, and you got to go back, and that is hard to do. It's hard to go back in such detail
that you've hidden away for so long, and now you're pulling everything,
and you got every detail that
right
you can possibly remember.
Specific moments.
And I did start to go down the self-blame again, because I'm like, there are some things that I couldn't remember. Mm-hmm. How can you not remember what he is wearing? Mm-hmm. How could you not, like, do you know if he had on shoes? No. Like, how could I not remember that, right?
And so here you are now 17 years later.
And I'm like, how do you not remember that? How do you not remember if the window was open, or this was, and the curtains were closed, and do you remember if it was raining or sunny? I don't remember anything, right? And I started down that self-blame route, like, you need to, like, and I went back to the mirror. You need to remember. And I had to then have a different conversation. It's okay that you don't.
That's right.
It's okay that you don't remember. And I had to talk myself through it, because
not remembering certain things doesn't mean it didn't happen.
Exactly. Because I'm not going to remember what you did, or what you were wearing, or how you felt. I'm going to remember what it was to me.
Exactly.
Because it's my report, and again, I stood in my truth, and after the interview, the person who took my statement or whatever, and they were like, it's okay that you don't remember. And it was it was a relief to hear it. Although I had already said it to myself, it was a relief to hear someone else tell me it was okay that you don't remember.
Because that's validating you.
Exactly.
And from a source there where you say, okay, well, they believe me and this is not going to deter them believing me.
And all those misconceptions in your head about when you make your report didn't happen. Those things that we build up in our head, they're not going to believe me. They're going to say, well, you did go up there. Like all of these things that I had conjured up into my head about how it would go. Because as far as from then to probably today, I'm a control freak. I have to control the narrative of everything. So, and it's only her recent. And when I say her recent, after conviction, that I've realized how much I have missed out on life because I've had to control everything.
Because you lost control.
I've had to control the possibilities of what could happen. Really? How do you do that? How? And it's, I don't know, but if I can't see the outcome, like if I can't think about it in my head, then I'm not going. And
here you are now being in a position where your story can go forward and you can control, will they convict him or won't they convict him?
Nope, I can't control anything. But my experience with the police was not what it was in my head. My experience with the police was good. I was heard. I was listened to. And even though sometimes I felt the questions were a bit invasive, I didn't mind it because I felt as though whatever the answer was not just noted, it was heard. And you don't realize how much that means until it happens, right? You don't realize that being heard means something. And
it does, because when you're not heard, that means something as well.
Exactly. But it's not even something you think about. It's not even something that passed through my head. Well, they're not gonna hear me. Because I'm loud. I'm vulgar. I'm a lot of things. You're gonna hear me. You're going to listen to me. But being heard, and being able to acknowledge that I was heard, it felt different. It gave me another badge on my sash. It was like
a support.
It was.
And they weren't saying they were agreeing with you
or disagreeing.
They heard.
They just heard me,
and they respected you through the process.
And I felt it, and I think it made a world of a difference. You know what I mean? And then even when it was passed from the police to the Department of Prosecutions, that's another. Because each time you talk to somebody, you got to talk about this. It's something it's not a one time thing. It wasn't a reliving it, but it is. You got to go into detail because you went into detail with this person and all they're seeing it is on a piece of paper. They need to hear it from you. They need to be able to see and feel the expressions and the doubt or the fear or the whatever the case may be. They need to be able to see that. And I didn't realize that this entire this entire process would be so revealing. Because again, you got details now that you hadn't thought about in over a decade. So now you're able to self-heal and self-evaluate, and you're able to articulate better because you've had the opportunity now to see what you have been avoiding for so long. You know what I mean? And it was another notch on that is not your fault.
And come to terms with
every and anything that happened. I had forgotten that I even kissed this man, I had forgotten about it.
Right. And so you were able to even forgive yourself for burying that for so many years.
Exactly. You know, I have forgotten about so many other details that had occurred because it wasn't something I was trying. It's not a path I'm trying to go down.
Right.
I'm not going back down that path.
Mm-hmm.
No. What for? But now that I've gone on that path, I'm like, why didn't I do this sooner?
And so let's talk about, you've been through the DPP and now you're in court. What are you feeling leading up to that time and then when you get to court?
Anxiety is a new term to me,
Mm-hmm.
for me. It's a few years old that I've been able to understand what anxiety is. And the week that was leading up,
Mm-hmm.
my anxiety was on like 10,000. And my boyfriend was extremely supportive.
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't know what my anxiety would do,
Mm-hmm.
right? You don't know if you're going to be aggressive or just want to cry or depressed or whatever. Like,
say, I don't want to do this.
You're anxious. You can't really explain it. I was having slight panic attacks. I had to learn a breathing regimen because anytime it popped into my head that, this date's coming up. And then, you still got life to live, right? You still got other things to do. You can't just, right? You got to work.
Yeah.
You got to listen. And working with anxiety, when you got people around you, that it don't matter whether you like them or not. Any and everything that they do annoys you. Everything. It could be your fourth bathroom break of the day. Why are you going to the bathroom again?
Yes.
What is wrong with your bladder? What, like?
Because everything is hard.
Everything is heightened. Mm-hmm. So it was hard. Mm-hmm. It was a difficult, and I had to have multiple conversations with myself. Mm-hmm. I had to pull myself to the carpet, like, you're overreacting on a lot of things that you need to calm down. Like,
and at any time during this almost 2-decade course, did you have counseling?
I did do counseling. So my counseling, I actually went to therapy for something else, which brought up this. Because, you have to go through the sequence of events in your life and what led to them and this and that. I did that when I was in my mid-20s. And I think that may have been one of the biggest things that allowed me to start my self-work. Because I wouldn't say it gave me any tools to do it, but at the time, because those files were being opened, I peeked inside. I was like, okay, all right. Let's put it back. But yeah. I was starting to do self-work.
Yes.
I was starting to self-heal. I was starting to acknowledge different traumas of my life. And that was one of them that I peeked in. Yeah, okay. But because that wasn't what I was there for, I didn't allow myself to dive into this. I didn't allow myself to dive into that trauma because that's not what I'm here for.
Right.
I'm here for this.
You weren't ready.
We'll leave that alone. Yes. This is what we're here for.
Yeah. So, you weren't ready for that at
exactly.
Time.
But it,
And you have to be ready because it will overwhelm you if you're not.
And even when it overwhelms you, because there have been points where it has overwhelmed me. I have, this is going to get real TMI, but like I've bawled both during and after sex.
Yeah.
Because of trauma.
Yeah.
And it's freaked people out. Like, if you, You can tell me some man if you were sleeping with your husband and he starts crying, you're not gonna be like, what is happening? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
it
yeah.
freaks people out. It probably freak you out too. Like, why am I bawling?
And did you know at the time why you were bored, or these
No,
emotions? Just...
it was an emotion that I couldn't understand, and it's only happened a handful of times. Most of which with my boyfriend, so I've been lucky, but it has happened with others, and it was something, when it first happened, I was still a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what the hell was happening.
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, I can never speak to you again. like we do not know each other. I am sorry. I don't know what's going on, but
yeah,
like it's.
I don't need to have a discussion with you.
No, we don't ever need to talk about this.
Yes,
like ever in life. So but I've had to really look at myself, and the great thing about this entire process and throughout the years is that today I'm not just able to look at it, I'm able to embrace it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
able to embrace the journey my trauma has sent me.
Mm-hmm.
Because yes, it was part of my story, but it was almost an external part of my story. Whereas now, no, that's who I am. I am not my trauma.
Yeah, yeah,
but my trauma is a part of who I am.
yeah.
And that alone made a world of a difference with me, because all that time I have been my trauma. My trauma had me.
Yes, yes.
I was imprisoned by my trauma, and
although you thought you were controlling it.
although I thought I was in control.
Mm-hmm.
I really did. I thought I was in control of this. And it wasn't until a couple weeks ago that it was, no, honey, you've not been in control this entire time.
Mm-hmm.
You've allowed your trauma to make choices for you.
Yep.
Masked in, this is the choice that you've made.
Right.
And that was an amazing awakening, because it was like, wow. And so I'm sitting in front of the prosecution explaining, my situation and this and that. And they're like, they're giving me all these legal terms I don't know enough about. I'm like, okay. And they ask again, are you wanting to do this? And without hesitation, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Because this, at that point, it was no longer for anyone else.
Right.
It was for me.
Right.
Right? It was for Christine. It had nothing to do with my loved one. It had nothing to do with supporting anybody else through their trauma. It was only about me.
And it was for Christine, that 15-year-old girl that didn't have a voice.
It was for that 15-year-old Christine. And luckily, between that meeting with prosecutions, there was a drag. So we initially had a court date, which got postponed due to COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So COVID hadn't hit when I initially had that meeting with prosecutions, and then COVID. So when the court started to get back in the swing of things,
open back up,
October, they gave me a date. They were like, "Her, you need to be on this date." Okay. And again, you're stuck with that
anxiety. Here you come.
Now, the day of was hard. I didn't sleep at all. Like, not a bit. Couldn't sleep. I didn't have the stomach to really, I didn't have an appetite, so I didn't really eat. My boyfriend was like, you gotta eat something. Like, you're not leaving home before having something in your stomach.
Exactly.
Because
you're gonna need that.
Because you're gonna need something, right? So I had breakfast. We went to court. Now, I don't know what can happen. I don't know how it will happen, but something needs to happen
Mhm.
about, especially about sensitive situations. Um, because if you've ever been to court, you know it's a big open foyer,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's all the court doors.
Yeah.
That means I'm gonna stand in a hole looking at you, or you looking at me.
So you weren't immediately
We
taken
weren't
in.
immediately taken into court because, court starts at a certain time. You want to make sure that you're there at least 5-10 minutes early,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Make sure, one, you got the right courtroom,
Mhm.
which I did not.
Mhm.
But I'm gonna stand in the hall and have you in my same vicinity.
Mhm.
That was a lot.
Mhm.
Luckily, I had my friend and my boyfriend there with me.
Mhm.
But I stared straight out the window. I
Mhm.
could not look at anybody coming or going. I couldn't do anything, you know what I mean?
And there is space for individuals to be away from that, and I guess that's something that needs to be discussed.
And like I said, I don't know what
As an option.
can be done. I don't
Yeah.
know. But that is difficult.
Yeah, and that's your story.
That is difficult to knowingly, because I knew I would be in court with him.
Right.
I didn't think I'd have to see him beforehand.
Right. You hadn't processed that part of it. You
Nope.
only saw yourself in a courtroom and sitting there hearing his side, hearing your side.
Right. I
Yes.
never thought about what happens
Yeah.
before court even starts.
Yeah.
You know?
Or even if you were coming through downstairs and he was coming through at the same time.
Or we cross at the bathrooms.
Yeah.
Like it's a lot. It's a
Yes.
lot to take in. It's a lot to consider. It's a lot to be able to process. It's a lot emotionally, especially because you're already tight. You're already anxious. You're already emotionally overwhelmed, and then you add this cherry on top
that you hadn't
that
considered.
you never considered. And I told you,
The
I
control.
consider all possibilities. How that one slipped.
Mm-hmm.
How I didn't foresee
Mm-hmm.
me being in a hallway with him.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And my boyfriend just grabbed my hand and he was like, just
Breathe.
just breathe. Like just breathe, because
Yeah.
And I'm trying not to cry. I'm trying not to like have a panic attack. I'm trying
Keep these emotions intact.
because I'm being told that I'm the first person on the stand. Like I need to be able to talk.
Yes.
So I need to breathe. I need to.
Because your voice at 15 was taken.
Exactly.
And you hid it. And here it comes again. It's trying to hide again because you're back at 15.
And it took a lot. It took a lot. And, being in court. See, you already anticipate defense.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You anticipate that they're going to throw some BS at you. You anticipate that they're probably going to lie here and there.
Mm-hmm.
But when they do it, you don't anticipate how it's going to make you feel.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
And how did it make you feel?
Ooh, I wanted to fight.
Yeah.
Ooh. If there was a possibility if I wouldn't get arrested on the spot, I would have. I would have jumped over the podium and going at. Like it wasn't a I'm gonna be okay. It was,
you're trying to take my voice again by sitting up there
lying. And manipulating the actual truth.
Mm-hmm.
And adding things in, and what it feels like is the proverbial J up, like just like you're already done,
mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're kicking me while I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
and it's you're unable to process in that moment because you still got to focus on what's being said to you and asked of you, and you that
You have to pull from
And,
deep with strength.
and I'm in court by myself
Mhm.
because my friend and my boyfriend are all witnesses, so they can't be there with me.
Got you. They have to stand outside the
So
courtroom.
so I'm there by myself in a room with, in retrospect, people I don't know,
Right.
people I don't feel safe with,
Right.
people I don't feel secure and comfortable, and then you're coming at me.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, it took a lot off me.
And I'm sure
It was
that
exhausting.
prosecution prepped you, but
They can't prep you for
no,
that.
exactly.
Because they can prep you that, it's going to get emotional. And they did, it's going to get emotional. If you need to breathe, if you need water, if you need time, like, we are here for you. Like, it's the court is even here for you.
Mm-hmm.
If you need to take a recess, then you need to take a recess. You need to use the bathroom, whatever the case may be. But
being there is totally different.
Being there on the podium and it's coming at you, it's hard.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's hard because you want to go at this person, whether it's verbally or physically, and I wanted to do both.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to keep a level of composure. You have to
make sure your story's heard.
Exactly. You have to make sure that the judge is hearing you and not hearing your actions or your reactions, right? And I'm glad that my testimony was broken in half, right? So we broke for lunch because I was able to regroup, right? And my boyfriend before, because we're not supposed to interact until after, right? Yes. So I'm like, like,
so you really had to have another self-talk with
yourself.
I
did. The only thing that I was able to do was I broke down. I gave him a hug and I broke down, like, because I needed that security blanket. I needed to feel safe and secure and okay, right? So I went to him and I just broke down, just bawled, just cried, and I went to lunch. I didn't eat. Well, I ate, but it was very little. The last thing he said to me was, "Don't drink."
Yes.
Do not drink. Be completely sober. Just go and come back. And I went. I had lunch, and I had a conversation with myself in Rose's Cantina bathroom. I had a conversation with myself, and it was, "You got this. Stand in your truth."
Yes.
Stand in your truth. Do not allow them to diminish your truth
or to control you.
This is, it's gonna sound crazy. It's gonna sound really crazy. But I said, this is Sparta. It's me and my boyfriend's favorite movie to watch together. It's the 300.
Okay.
And that's what I said to myself. This is Sparta.
It's game time. And you have to be ready.
I had to be ready. So I walked out of Rose's Cantina, I walked up to the Hue, and I walked into that courtroom a completely different beast.
Yeah.
A completely different beast. Because I wasn't broken.
Right.
But I was hurt.
Right. But you knew
But coming back?
Yeah.
Coming back, you couldn't tell me anything. Right. I guarantee you that defense attorney like does not want to face me in court again. They did not appreciate how I came back to court. I came back strong. I came back myself. I came back
That anxiety was gone.
I came back the Christine of today
Mm-hmm.
versus the Christine
15
years old. You know, I came back with not with a shield of armor, because that just, it means you cocooned yourself again to me, right?
So you were free in your truth.
But I came back a stronger human